And Senator Bob Menendez is with us from Capitol Hill. Senator, thanks for being with us.
Good to be with him.
Well, you had an exchange with Mr. Tillerson about sanctions on Russia, but Mr. Tillerson says he does favor maintaining current U.S. sanctions. Are you satisfied with that?
Well, I'm not, because I'm worried about his views on sanctions in general. Russia, for the moment, we just introduced a bipartisan package of extending sanctions on Russia. He wouldn't express himself on that. He says that he didn't even know that Exxon was lobbying against sanctions against Russia and Iran, and yet I produced lobby reports that showed that Exxon had. And he said that in his one meeting or two meetings with the president-elect, he didn't even discuss Russia, which is, beyond my imagination. And so, these are all parts of elements that are going to be concerning as we have to decide on Mr. Tillerson's nomination.
Well, as you know, Mr. Tillerson broke with President-elect Trump on NATO, saying he has full support for its mutual defense guarantee. What's your response to that?
Well, listen, if that is the president-elect's position, then I am happy to hear it. That's one item that I am happy to hear. I think that provision of NATO is the linchpin of our relationship throughout Europe, the linchpin of the alliance, and critically necessary. As a matter of fact, that article was invoked when we were struck on that tragic day on September 11th, and the rest of NATO countries sought to engage with us in response to that attack. So the reality is that's a critical element, and that's good news if that's the president-elect's views that Mr. Tillerson is going to carry out. But based upon his remarks that he had, it doesn't seem like he had a very substantive global trot, so to speak, in terms of his conversations with the president-elect. I don't know how he's going to get to speak for him unless he knows what positions and views he has.
Well, Mr. Trump conceded for the first time that Russia was behind the hacking of the DNC. Is that the end of the story for you?
No. The next phase of the story is what do we do in response to a violation of the international order, in this case Russia hacking not only the DNC, but more importantly, trying to affect the national elections for President of the United States. If any foreign country, through cyber attacks or any other effort, tries to affect the national elections of the United States, we should all, Republicans, Democrats, and independents, be appalled, and we must respond to it strongly. Because in the absence of doing that, then you will have not only a Russia or a China or a North Korea do it to us in future elections. Mr. Trump could actually be the victim of that in the future, or we have elections going on in Europe, incredibly important allies in France and Germany. Russia's attempts to do that there. There must be a response to the violation of trying to affect elections in another country by a foreign government.
Well, we talked to Congressman Adam Schiff earlier this week, who blamed the Obama administration for not going public sooner with the severity of Russia's hacking. Do you share Congressman Schiff's view?
Yeah, I am disappointed. I understand the response that I've heard, that President Obama didn't want to go ahead and be seen as trying to affect the election. But I think if a foreign government is in the midst of trying to affect our elections, that in fact the American people should know that. The evidence should be presented to them, as now the evidence was, and they should be the one to judge that whole circumstance. And so the after the fact is really alarming, because if you look at the context of the president-elect's statements as it relates to Russia, it almost is unseemly even when members of his own party, both on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee that I sit on, or John McCain and Lindsey Graham in the Armed Services Committee and others, have a very clear-eyed view of what Russia's all about, and yet he seems to be warming up to Vladimir Putin. Well, something is wrong with that, and so maybe it's a lack of understanding of the geopolitical realities with Putin, but I certainly get concerned about it.
Senator Bob Menendez, Senator, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.